Hey everybody, hope you're doing great today. This video I want to talk about a special way that I use to clean up my live plants and as well as some sponge filters I have in my tanks. So as you know, algae can quickly get out of hand in your aquariums. They grow on plants, they grow in your sponge filters. It grows everywhere and sometimes it can get a little overwhelming in tanks. So usually I try to keep the front of the glass of all my tanks clean. Generally when there's algae in and around the tank, I leave it in the tank. It helps control the parameters of the tank in terms of nitrites, nitrates, ammonia. So by leaving it over there, as long as it doesn't get too unruly, you could always bring in other inhabitants there to clean it up, such as your snails and shrimp. But for the tanks that you can't put shrimp in, you can put snails in. For example, I have a number of tanks that have cichlids in them. Putting anything small in there like a shrimp, they'll quickly get eaten, and obviously then they can't do much cleaning in that sense. This is not something that I recommend people should do. So what I do with these plants that I have in there, obviously it's easy to remove these plants. If the plants are in the substrate, they're rooted, I can't take those plants out. I can't move those around. But for those plants that are, say, glued onto rocks, like a Nubius, some Java fern that I glue onto rocks, it's easy for me to pop those rocks out and take it and put it in this aquarium right over here. So this aquarium right here behind me, I'm going to give you a close-up here soon, is a shrimp tank. Neocaridina shrimp, a bunch of shrimp in there, and they love algae. As you'll see here in the tank shortly, there is very little algae in there because they go and clean stuff up. So what I've found doing is taking some plants from other aquariums that have had a little too much algae growth on them. It stunts their growth. Just drop it in here for a little while, let the shrimp basically clean it up for you, and then put it back in that tank. Now obviously this is not something that everybody can do. It's more something I do, and I'm just kind of showing you the process of what I do. So there are risks involved, especially when you're transferring things in between tanks. There's always that risk that you transfer germs or other microorganisms, so that you have something in this tank may not necessarily be harmful for them, but you transfer it to another tank, it's going to be harmful to those inhabitants and vice versa. So there's a risk in that. So that's why I don't recommend anybody really do this. I do it because I trust my tanks, I know my tanks, and I feel comfortable doing it. But for others, that's a different story. Do it based on your comfort level if you feel comfortable doing it. But it's a neat way to keep algae down in other aquariums and at the same time feed the shrimp in this tank over here too. So let's take a look at this tank. So here's the tank right here. Blue Dream Neocaridina shrimp. This tank used to have a lot of algae on it, but as you can see, the shrimp do a pretty good job of keeping it clean. And it's not necessarily that I feed these guys every day, because there's plenty of growth in here for them to continue feeding on. There's plenty of green in there, plenty of leaves, plants. So I do occasionally add in some dead leaves in there. I do have some wood in there that they can munch on. There are also a couple snails in this tank too that help along in terms of the cleaning. But usually, and mainly it's the shrimp who do a majority of the work. As you can see, the sponge filters are pretty clean. Done a good job of making sure no algae is left behind. So as you can see here, these plants get coated in algae. So while these little Julidocomas in here do pick off the algae, they obviously don't do the greatest a job of cleaning it off. So what I'm going to do is take these and pop it into my shrimp tank there and see how long it takes to clean that off. Once cleaned off, I'll bring it back to this tank, because I do want some live plants in here, help with the nitrates. Another thing I have over here is a filter, and this is in my shell dweller tank. See a couple of the shell dwellers down there. So while there's a neorite snail in here, obviously it can't do a whole lot about cleaning all this algae off. It'll take its time, eat what it can, find what it can, and eat it whenever. Actually, there it is in the corner. So just one in here, but as we can see, the algae has coated this filter over here. It's still running decently, does need cleaning out there, but my plan is, rather than cleaning it off, is I'm going to swap it out. I'm going to pull this filter out and then swap it with one of these clean filters that I have here in my shrimp tank. So you can see there's a bunch of shrimp in and around the tank. couple snails in here, a couple neorite snails. There's one right there. One up on the back glass over there with some shrimp around them. So that they do a great job of cleaning up the algae. So let's go grab that one plant over there, pop it in here and see how long it takes for them to clean it up. So actually this one little plant over here, down there, that used to be in that Gelitochromis tank, and that was also pretty messy, quite a bit of algae. It's just a tiny little plant, but it was covered with algae. Brought it in here, they cleaned it up. But now let's try one of the bigger plants over there. As you can see, it's coated quite a bit with dark green algae. So I believe this is a Anubias nana petite. I can put it here into my shrimp tank and see how quickly they make work of all the algae on this rock and on the plant. Just been a couple of minutes so far since I put it in there, and the shrimp are already coming to the rock. I can see at least 3 or 4 or 5. Let's see how long it takes them to clean up the algae over here. Here we are about 1 hour later. There are probably 15, 20 or more shrimp on the rock, munching off all that algae there. So it doesn't take very long for them to get to work. A bunch of them are on it, happily munching away. Still plenty more to clean off though. Here we are at 5 hours later. Still a bunch of shrimp on the rock and on the plant. Much cleaner than the last time I checked in. Here's that same rock and plant a little more than 24 hours later. Not too many shrimp on it, but as you can see, all that algae is gone. So they are a great cleaning crew. If you've been enjoying this video so far, please hit that like button so others can find it too. Here's a close-up of this Anubias. As you can see in the after effect, they have pretty much cleaned this completely off, no algae. I'm about to put it back in the Gelitochromis fry tank, but you can see that the shrimp have cleaned it off pretty well. This is an Anubias that's been in this tank for a little while. They both, actually these two right here were put in around the same time. But this one over here, sent to the shrimp tank for cleaning. This one obviously was not. So you can still see quite a bit of algae. Obviously the color is a little different on this rock since it has a lot of algae growing on it compared to this one. Looks like it's a brand new rock just put in. So you can see they definitely have an impact on cleaning up this stuff. So what I'm going to do here is, since this is an active filter, the filters up here are active filters in terms of biological activity, I'm going to swap filters. I'm going to pull this one out of here and then swap it with the tank in there, the entire thing, the sponge filter, tube and all, and just swap them out. Because this one obviously needs cleaning, needs a good flow, needs the flow to be restored. Probably need to do some internal cleaning to it as well. The flow ring around this easy flow tubing there, it probably needs a cleaning on the inside with it, and I'll take care of that later. But for now I'm just going to pull this directly out and then swap it with the one in the tank above, and then we'll see how quickly the shrimp clean that filter up. So where it goes from looking like this to looking like one of these filters over here. So I'm not going to change any ear lines. The ear lines are going to stay where they're at. And then since I've got a lot of little shrimp fry, little baby shrimplets in here, I need to shake this off just to make sure there's none left behind here. Because they do enter the filter, tiny guys that they are. So I can see a couple there popping off right now. Sorry for the bubble noise. One filter removed. This one's got a lot of algae all over it. Shrimp are going to love this. So there was a bunch of mulm kicked up in moving the filters. That was bound to happen. It should settle down here in a few. I got the clean filter in the lower tank over here, the shell dwellers. Nice thing about the shell dwellers, they don't really get too bothered. They do run to their shells, hide out if they feel threatened, and they don't see anything that's going on. Got the filter put in. There's some algae and some mulm that was dropped off as I move the filter around. So far, actually I do see, looks like one shrimp on the bottom of there hanging off. Looks like one shrimp over there. We'll see how long it takes them to clean this off. You can see there's some algae hanging off the tube over there. Actually, yep, I see some more shrimp over there. So definitely going to check back in on this filter here tomorrow. I'm sure it's going to take at least a couple hours, if not more, for them to clean, really make a dent in the way it looks. Here we are more than 24 hours later, and you can see this filter is much cleaner compared to what it was yesterday. Still a bunch of algae on it, and there's still shrimp on it, munching along. But they did a great job of cleaning it up, and they're getting fed at the same time too. Here it is about 48 hours later. Much cleaner. So like I mentioned, this is not something that everybody can do. Not everybody has shrimp tanks, nor do I recommend that anybody do it. There are risks when you switch decorations between tanks. There's always that risk you're going to add some disease or contamination to one of your clean tanks, and then your diseases can quickly spread. And I've heard stories of fish keepers who had something start off in one tank, and for one reason or whatever or another, whether they're using the same net, they're using the same siphon, same magnets to clean the glass, something spreads and wipes out their entire tanks. So that sucks. Not a great thing to do. So obviously I don't recommend this method. I just do with a couple tanks just to keep the algae off of these plants, help these plants grow a little better, especially with plants like Anubias. They are slower growing, and so anything like algae growing on them, we're going to slow them down even further. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below about this method. What do you think about it? Good or not? Risky or not? Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.